Hey, I'm Max. You're watching Sip It or Skip It. Let's talk about some whiskey. You may be seeing Dark Arts. It's a newer brand, is in most of the country now. This is a brand that is blending. They're similar to like a Rare Character in that they're doing a lot of blending, experimental finishes. This is their Ripple Rye. This is a 7-year, 110 proof whiskey. It comes from Indiana, but is aged and bottled in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Now, the interesting thing about this brand is they have quite a bit of heritage on their team, from their CEO, their master blender who came from Wilderness Trail, Macaulay Minton. He is very, very talented. The rye, you see more bourbons out on the market, but they do have a couple ryes here and there. They range from about a 6 to a 7.5 year, and most of them are going to be finished in a variety of options or both of these. Usually it's one or the other, but this is both. This is maple syrup barrels, and it is Brazilian Amburana oak staves, and they are toasted oak staves. Now they have a maple, and then they also have an Amburana. But one of the things I really want to point out about this brand real quick is I've had a lot of dark art stuff. It's really grown on me. I think they do great with their experimental finishes. And this here, the glass cap, is awesome. It looks great. But when they first came out, they did wax caps, and the wax was a pain to get off. It was quite an ordeal, but glad they did the glass. It's just easier. It looks better. But look at this whiskey. It's a little bit on the darker side. Yes, it's 7 years old, but I mean, judging by the color, you're going to get a lot of sweeter notes, brown sugar, etc. And we're going to get into that. So I do have a short review of it, and I do have a ranking video review of it. I'll be talking about both here, but I'll have a short of both of those. So on the nose, you do get a lot of like cream cheese frosting, some darker cinnamon notes, the maple. It really makes me think of like you go to one of those Amish bakeries and get a massive cinnamon roll the size of your head. That's really what this has on it. You get a lot of wood sugars. You get more Amburana than maple, but Amburana, is very good. But I'd say for finishes, it's a little more intrusive. It's much more forward on anything it touches, even here doing staves and not entire barrels. But it is fantastic. You do get just a touch of the rye spice. You don't really get a lot of rye spice on the nose. It's mainly those sweeter notes, the sugars, a lot of good options there. Now, excuse me, but this is, again, on the nose, you might get a little bit of almond. I'd say some like ginger, maybe gingerbread, touch of toffee, but it's definitely an after dinner drink. I don't really know how this would go with anything, but let's get into it. Man, that is delicious. Drink's a little bit over its proof, which is interesting. A lot of stuff these days, I feel like it's over-published. It's kind of like a car where the speedometer legally reads over what you're doing. But this is a little bit hotter on the back end. But I attribute that to the rye spice. There's a lot of rye spice. You really forget you're drinking a rye. And then the finish comes and it just, boom, just hits you like a brick, but in a very good way. This would be a great rye in cold weather as a result. It's very, very warming and inviting. But on the palate, everything from the nose translates. You get a little bit more maple, which is fantastic. And you get just a touch of like greenery, earthy notes. You get a lot more almond. You get almost the viscosity, like the dryness of an almond. It almost has a dry, dirty note to it on the nose, but it is absolutely fantastic. You get a touch of apple on the palate too, but again, moving on to the finish, you're going to get a lot of wood sugars. Again, that cinnamon, that Amburana is very overpowering, but in a good way. And you're going to get just a touch of that greenery, and then boom, out of nowhere, rye spice. So, excuse me, talking about the ranking. And again, I'm going to do a little ranking short and break it up, make it easier. But for those of you who like long form content. So as far as this bottle goes, I would say, you know, on the nose, 1 being you don't really get much, a 10 being you get a lot. I'd say you get a lot. I would contemplate this and say it's probably a 7 to an 8 on the nose, somewhere in there. On the palate, again, 10 being a ton of flavor, I would say this is probably a 6, simply because the Amburana just overpowers some stuff, but you do get a lot of notes. The finish, again, that's where the rye hits you, the wood sugars, and it all kind of comes together. So I would say the finish on this is a solid 8. You know, finish length, you get a lot more length on ryes typically, especially at higher proof. This one, again, the Amburana sticks around a lot, but you do get a touch of the maple and a touch of the greenery. But overall, I'd say it sticks with you, but the spice dies kind of quickly and you're just left with cinnamon. So I would say on the finish length, I'd say it's probably an 8. Moving on to value. $99-ish, 89 to $100 is what the ryes are going to set you back, whether it's a 7-year or the 7.5-year or whatever store pick you end up with. They're all going to be around that same money. Value-wise, I think there are a lot of really good ryes on the market, but if you're wanting something finished, especially an experimental finish, in most of the cases, what's going to be a barrel pick here, I would say a value on this is probably a 6. It's a really good whiskey for those who are hunting for it in that price point and you want a little bit of a nicer, more complex whiskey. But at the same time, there are a lot of really good ryes that are unknown on the market that I've had the pleasure of enjoying that are 60, $70. So it makes it a little bit challenging to justify the $100. But you know what? I think I'll bump that up to a 7 because, you know, there are some ryes that are more and you do get a lot for the money. As far as value by brand, most of their products that I've seen range between 80 and $99. This was $99. I would say the value for the brand, you don't see a lot of the ryes, I would give it an 8. You're getting a lot more flavor and not just like the sugariness that all the bourbons have with just a little bit of finishing. You're getting something a little more unique here. Funny thing about Dark Arts, love their label by the way, is weirdly, I think their 10 years are the better value. And I love a lot of their 7-year stuff. The 10 years are double the price. And initially when they came out, I was like, I don't know. But now I think that even though they're double the price, they're better value, which is crazy. So if you see a 10-year, what will be a gold wax top or a glass top, pick one up. They are delicious. Now, as far as drinkability goes, it is pretty approachable, but you get a lot of the rye spice. You get a lot of rye spice on the finish. It heats up, again, in a good way, but for someone who's not a connoisseur, it might get a little hot. So I would say drinkability on this, even with those delicious cream cheese and cinnamon notes, is probably a 6. Because again, it drinks a little over its proof. Still fantastic. Availability, you don't see the ryes that often. You see a lot more of the bourbons. Availability is probably a 5. Now, hype on this, no one's really talking about it, and if they are, they're kind of comparing it to other finishes and picks on the market. I would say availability and hype kind of go hand in hand. Not a lot of people know about it, not a lot of people don't. So on a scale of 1 being like a overrated, allocated product, and a 10 being something that no one knows about that's killer, I would say this is a 5. It's good, it's out there, just not many people know about it. The ones who do rave about it, so it's kind of neutral. And lastly, quality. I think that their master blender knows what he's doing, and there's a lot of quality. It doesn't, even though it's got that kind of dusty, thicker almond note to it on the palate, I'm not getting a lot of, I don't feel like it's unfinished. I don't feel like it's lacking anything. I don't feel like they rushed it. So I'd say quality on this is a solid 9. And to that, Dark Arts, props. All together as a package, it's a 9. and the juice itself is fantastic. Moving on, let's talk about the brand. Not a lot of people know about the brand. As a result, they sit. Dark Arts typically sit in stores. I think that people should try them, should branch out a little bit. Personally, if I had this sitting next to a rare character, yeah, there are some good rare characters out there, but they're a little more hit or miss for me. Initially going into it, I would have grabbed a rare character. Now I'd heavily grab the Dark Arts. I think it's a lot more value. They're usually about 20 bucks cheaper, and there's just, in my opinion, better whiskey, and you get more of the finishes. So as a brand, don't skip it. Take a look at it, sip them, enjoy them. There's a lot of them coming out. They're doing barely legal bourbons. They're doing, they're doing half-year age statements. They're doing all kinds of really, truly experimental, interesting things. Not just another sherry barrel like a lot of people do, or another port barrel. They're doing, they're doing different staves with different oak aging, all this crazy stuff. And so you got to give them props for that. As far as their bourbons go, they are good. They are going to be on the sweeter side, and typically this is 110. Those are going to be around 116 to 118. But the bourbons are all worth it as well. Highly recommend you give Dark Arts a look as a brand. Read more into them. Try some of their products. And most importantly, when you see something like this, it's a newer finish, experimental company, give them a try, show them some support. But thanks again. My name is Max, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.